Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for December 2022. So on Wednesday, December 7th, we have our full moon taking place in Gemini energy at 11:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, of course, this puts us in a situation for many of us. We will be experiencing the potent direct energy Thursday, the 8th, instead of Wednesday, the 7th. So pay attention to the timing. Pay attention to where it is that you're at in the world so that you know where this is happening for you, where the potent energy is going direct. But for many of us, this will be on December 7th. So this full moon in Gemini is taking place at 16 degrees. It's very important to note that. We're going to circle back and talk about that here in a second. And where it is a full moon, of course, this is about endings. This is about releasing, purging, closures, closing the door on 2022. This is the last full moon of 2022. And where it is in Gemini, the twins were definitely going to be divided. Yes, Gemini energy rules over the mental plane, rules over information, rules over communication and how it is that we express ourselves. But it definitely is the dualistic, polarized, opposite extremes that we all experience in order to find the common ground, the middle point, if you will. It's important to note that Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, is the ruler of this full moon. The reason why it's important to note that is because this means that this is going to be a huge focus in the head, a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas. There's going to be a lot of talk, a lot of gossip, a lot of communication, and we have to be very careful with this energy because Mercury just moved into Capricorn energy, the manifester of the zodiac. We have to be very cautiously aware of what it is that we allow to take up space in our mental plane, what it is that we're focused on, what has our attention. We have to be very aware of what it is that we are expressing, communicating, letting out of our mouths. Again, whatever it is that we focus on, whatever it is that we speak while Mercury is in Capricorn has a high probability of coming true, manifesting this particular topics and themes, these ideas, these particular emotions. Now, go ahead, listen to the astro forecast for Mercury moving into Capricorn because that's its own thing. But the fact that Mercury just moved into Capricorn and then not even 24 hours later, we're having a Mercury-ruled full moon, you best believe that this is going to add a little bit of spice. So keep in mind, Capricorn energy, very focused on the long term, however, very connected to karma as well. We need to clean up the loose ends of the past in order to clean the slate in the here and now before we get building, creating, manifesting elements of our futures. So there is going to be, because this is a full moon, a full reflection over this past year, even more so back to the spring when we had our new moon in Gemini. So yes, this is a looking back, if you will. This is a recognition of what it is that we have been biting our tongues on, what it is that we've been hesitant to talk about, hesitant to express. And let me just tell you, the reason why 16 degrees is pretty important is because the full moon taking place at 16 degrees is sitting next to Mars, who is retrograde in Gemini energy at 16 degrees. So this is going to add a little bit of fire, a little bit of spice. Now, not that I'm a negative Nancy, not that we're trying to fear monger here, but let me just tell you, this is not the most positive energy for a full moon. What we are being presented with is an opportunity to speak our piece, to speak our truth, to stop biting our tongues, to express ourselves fully. And the fire energy, the anger, the frustration, the agitation, the passion, the desire that Mars brings to the, I'm going to say, stage, is really going to spice things up, really going to set the stage for a volatile confrontation, if you will. And the goal here is to get a lot of the things that we've been thinking and feeling off of our chest, out of our bodies. Yes, it may create a little bit of a shitstorm. Yes, that's okay. Sometimes we have to make things messy in order to recognize where it is that we have to get started in cleaning things up. That's okay. But we have to focus in on the Gemini energy here. As I mentioned, it is in the mental plane, does rule over our thoughts, our ideas, the way that we communicate and express ourselves, but it's represented as the twins. And actually in mythology, It's more than the twins. It's actually quadruplets because we have the ego versus the intuition, the masculine versus the feminine. So if you kind of splice that up, there's a masculine and feminine ego, a masculine and feminine higher self, intuition, if you will. And we don't often talk about the quadruple sets of energies when it comes to Gemini energy. They kind of just focus down on the twins. But of course, there's the shadow self to each of those elements. So we are really starting to see that energy kind of be divided. And division is a good concept to speak about when we're talking about Gemini energy, because we literally have 1 foot here in the physical realm where ego rules over. We have 1 foot in the higher realms of intelligence that our higher selves and our intuition rules over. We have 1 foot in our head space, 1 foot in our heart space. We have 1 foot in the past, 1 foot in the future. We're very divided. And because of this is where we really explore the polarization of ideas, of thoughts. This is where we see the dualistic form of our choices, our decisions, our path, our direction. And again, because this is a full moon, there is a full circle, I'm going to say, storyline being brought to our attention, especially since the new moon in the spring. But as of late, especially since eclipse season, especially since Scorpio season, where we literally had an ego death, where we saw parts of our lives essentially die in order for the new version of ourselves and our realities to be rebirthed, renewed, reborn, we are standing in a new truth. We're in Sagittarius season. Sagittarius season shines a bright light on our new mission, on our new purpose, on a new truth, on a new perspective, on a new awareness, on a new understanding. It's very much the higher self giving us a perspective of why it is we had to go through certain topics and themes, certain spiritual life lessons in order to land us at this point. And this point is super important because we're about to walk into a brand new chapter, not just because we are ending up, 2022 and moving into 2023, but because we are approaching the solstice energy, which is essentially a clearing of the game board that we are working on. And we are essentially moving into new karma, new soul contracts, new spiritual life lessons. So right now we're standing in the light of our truth, of our awareness, of our enlightenment. The sun shining in Sagittarius energy provides us with that. But sitting opposite to the Sag energy is this Gemini energy that has us very split, very divided. We are tossing ideas back and forth. We are trying to compute through our emotions because we're very divided in our emotions. Again, our heart and head don't seem to be in agreement. We have different choices, different paths, different decisions, different directions that we're contemplating taking. And this really is an ebb and flow, a tug of war, if you will, in order for us to find that middle ground, that compromise on what is right for us. So having Mars kind of teamed up with the full moon, you best believe that we are going to unearth a lot of repressed emotions, especially where frustration, agitation, anger, rage is concerned. We have to kind of understand that what we're seeing on the global stage right now with all of this information being leaked, information being brought to the awareness. Look at Twitter, for example. Look at Ye. Look at, Balenciaga. Look at all of these little bits and pieces that many of us have been in alignment with, knowing the truth from the lies. But it's actually coming out on the global stage right now. In whatever form it is being delivered in, it is creating a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. It's a lot of ideas, again, Gemini energy, a lot of communication, again, Twitter platform, social media platforms. There's a lot of repressed, hidden realm information coming to the surface. And you will be seeing that in your own individual life. You will be feeling that in your own individual emotions, but also picking up on the collective energies. Why do we know this? Because Neptune just went direct. That is the collective unconscious that we are bringing into awareness in order to illuminate topics, themes, ideas, in order for us to revamp them, heal them, turn that pain into power, turn that darkness into light. We have a lot of contributing factors taking place under this full moon in Gemini, and not very many of them are positive. I want to encourage you to download the moon guide, the last moon guide for 2022. I want to encourage you to prepare yourself as we shift into a new year for a brand new energy, a brand new lesson, a brand new quest for us collectively and individually to move in and pursue. But this particular full moon in Gemini is wrapping the old up, setting the stage for the here and now as we prepare to walk into a totally different reality as we know it. So, a couple of interesting facts I want to throw at you. Mars is halfway through his retrograde with this full moon energy. Now, he's going to continue to be in Gemini energy until March, but he actually comes out of his retrograde very early in January. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Mercury will be retrograde as we enter into 2023 and will be going direct just days within Mars going direct. We have the ruler of the mental plane, ruler of communication, ruler of information, Mercury, ruling over this full moon, who will be retrograde going into the new year, who's coming out of the retrograde, going direct with new ideas, new paths, new directions, new focus, new attention, backed by the physical energy, the passion, the desire, the aggression of Mars when Mars goes direct shortly after. So this is like a halfway point of this retrograde energy. Retrograde energy is internalized. That's why we're digging things up. That's why repressed thoughts, feelings, ideas, truths, emotions, anger are coming to the surface. And typically speaking, a full moon illuminates a lot of the things that were, I'm going to say, just under the surface of our awareness, bringing the unconscious into consciousness, bringing that darkness into light. And we are going to be, I'm going to say, emotionally charged, hot and heavy, super spicy, semi-argumentative, highly combative in our conversations, in our exchanges, in our emotions, and in our actions. This is setting us up, again, for cleaning the slate in order to tie up the loose ends of the past and to, I'm going to say, energetically charge us to the point where we are ready to move forward, make the changes, totally transform based off of the seeds of intention that were essentially rooted in through eclipse season that we just moved out of. So another interesting little aspect we got going on here is that the moon and Mars are going to be interacting with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is in Aries energy, retrograde in Aries energy. And what this is doing is opening up a huge opportunity for healing. How do we do that? We're standing in our power. How do we do that? We speak our truth. We advocate for ourselves. We are essentially declaring where it is that we are, the boundaries that we are putting in place, what it is that we are and are not willing to tolerate moving forward. There's a huge amount of growth taking place by speaking our truth, by, putting ourselves out there, by truly expressing ourselves. This Gemini energy is going to, yes, make it a lot easier for us to express ourselves and communicate, articulate correctly what is going on in our inner realms that we've been holding on to too tightly, that we have to get out. But it's also opening up our mind to new ideas, to new information, to new, I'm going to say, perspectives. Again, we have the sun in Sag, lighting up a new awareness, lighting up a new proof, a new truth, proof of truth, really. Lining up with a higher perspective. And for the most part, we have a deeper spiritual understanding than we did even a month ago. And so the sun in Sagittarius energy, a fire energy, is really lighting things up for us in order to see the light at the end of the tunnel, in order for us to see the prospects and the possibilities of the future. And this Gemini energy, again, very divided, is helping us to be open-minded enough to see what it is that we have to let go of in order for us to be light enough to actually move forward without being weighted down with the emotional baggage of the past. So this is going to illuminate our inner narratives because, of course, the change has to start within ourselves. So you might see or feel or notice, bring into your awareness the negative Ask Nancy narrative that you've been telling yourself. Maybe it's time to rewrite the script. Maybe the conversation, the confrontation, the argument that you're going to be having is with yourself. Maybe this is an illumination of where it is that you haven't been too kind to yourself, where it is that you've been overly critical, highly judgmental, blocking yourself from actually moving forward. Maybe the change needs to start with the way that you're speaking to yourself. Of course, we have the opportunity to communicate very carefully, very thoroughly with others. And we have to keep our wits about us, because if we go ahead and just have a full-blown meltdown, shit show, tantrum, we're really not going to be taken that seriously. There is a difference between aggressively advocating for yourself and speaking your truth and just kind of screaming and throwing a tantrum. We do have to be careful with this delivery. Again, keep in mind, Mercury, the ruler of this energy, is in Capricorn energy. This is karmic in nature, cleaning up the mess of the past, setting the stage work, the framework down for the future. We have to be careful with what it is that we're speaking on, what it is that we're focused on. But this is a great time for us to truly express ourselves, our thoughts, our ideas, our emotions, our perspective. It's even a great time to unleash our talents on the world. What have you been holding back? What have you been repressing? What have you been biting your tongue on? What it is that you have been blocking within yourself? It's time to let that out, let that go. Now, granted, many of us are not going to be the higher versions of ourselves, and many of us are going to be, quote unquote, attacked by low vibrational people. And that is going to manifest in arguments. Let's hope that we have enough control over our ego selves to not, throw the gloves down and want to throw hands. But out on the greater, grander stage, you're definitely going to see argumentative, combative, semi-violent, explosive type of information situations take place. Even when we're talking about weather, we're seeing these volcanoes erupt, although I do think a lot of that is man-made and man-triggered, but we're seeing the earth kind of manifest in this repressed anger, this repressed energy that can be very explosive once it gets to the surface. And we are our own inner volcanoes, and we have to be very careful with how it is that we erupt and allow our lava to flow. Now, lava is a beautiful thing. Lava burns the landscape around it, creating a perfect, clean slate for new regenerative growth. Okay, and that's exactly what we're doing here. Is we're burning the bridges, if you will. If it means cleaning the slate and setting the stage for something better to grow in its place. And yes, we have to be careful with that energy, but it's a very cleansing energy as well. So we should lean all the way into that if and when we can do it responsibly. Now, moving through the moon guide, you will notice that there is a lot more negative energy aspects taking place than there are positives. The one positive one that we have is the moon and Mars trining, which is a beautiful energy, with Saturn, the Lord of Karma, who rules over roles and responsibilities, who rules over systems, structures, foundations. Now, lucky for us, Saturn is here to make us mature. Saturn is here to pump the brakes on our reactivity so that we can handle things responsibly. Why? Because this is about karma. We're not looking to create bad karma. We're looking to clean up the past karma in order for us to move on. And we want to do so in a very responsible type of nature. So Saturn, in this particular aspect, thank goodness it's a trine, because he usually brings a lot of negativity, a lot of blocks, a lot of restrictions. Thankfully for us, he's here to kind of pump the brakes and put on the Jake brake, while the other part of us is stepping on the gas and hitting that nitro button, hopefully providing us with a little bit of balance so that we're not being flung into the extremes of this Gemini energy. Basically, the not so nice parts of this full moon is we have Neptune involved. Again, Neptune just came direct, which is a great thing. However, creates a lot of confusion, a lot of delusion. You might find that people are just in a mood, ticked off, not being able to even describe what it is that set them off. They're just kind of pissed off for no reason. There's this Again, collective energy that we're tapping into, and we may not be able to put our finger on why it is that we're feeling off. That Neptune energy kind of creates a fog, a veil over our awareness, and we might be feeling very extreme, very intense on the inside, but we might not be able to identify why it is that we're feeling that way. We have Uranus, again, in the true note, still working very closely together. They're literally 2 degrees apart, still in this Taurus energy. And this particular duo is going to be squaring, entering into the boxing ring with Saturn. Not such a nice jam, let me just tell you. This is, again, essentially trying to slow us down from making too many major moves, too many irrational moves, too many emotionally triggering moves. Saturn is here to slow us down, to make us see where it is that, karmically speaking, we need to wrap things up before we go ahead, start creating new things. And Saturn is here to kind of pump the brakes on our, I'm going to say, electric, energetic, emotional responses to some of the information and situations that are going to be popping off for us. So even though it's a tension-filled aspect, it's actually working in our favor so that we don't create an absolute shit show that we're going to regret later on. We also have to keep into consideration that Neptune will be squaring both Venus and the Sun. And Venus is at the very last degrees of Sagittarius energy, preparing to move into Capricorn here on the 9th, sitting very close to Mercury, the ruler of this full moon event, again in Capricorn energy. And this is opening our minds to new values. It's really changing our perspective on what and who makes us happy, makes us feel safe, makes us feel secure, and what it is that we actually want for ourselves in relationships, in money matters, in basically just focusing on the smaller things in life that bring a great value, a great sense of worth, a great happiness, a great joy to our lives. And, with Mercury being in Capricorn energy, the great manifesting energy of the zodiac, we're having a lot of new ideas that are being blocked by this layer of confusion from Neptune. And, this Gemini energy is already very divided, and we're already very hella confused. And Neptune is just kind of adding that, discombobulation layer on top of a lot of very intense aspects as well. So the one thing that I feel is super helpful is that Jupiter and Pluto are coming together in a sextile, and this is going to help us transform our beliefs, transform our pain into power, our darkness into light. It is going to inspire us and motivate us and really set a beautiful foundation, a beautiful stage for us to transition into 2023. Again, if you listen to the December energy forecast, you would know that Jupiter re-enters Aries energy on the 20th, the day before the solstice. This is a prime example of us stepping into our power, us taking control over our lives, rising to a new level of authority in our awareness and our knowledge and our wisdom. And, change is coming. The course of change, we are already on it. That's what eclipse season was all about. And what I would say many of us perceived as punishment or curse or bad luck or, loss or death, there's been a lot of negative situations that have taken place over the course of this year, especially in eclipse season. And that will essentially be morphed and transformed into gifts, into rewards, into blessings as we move into 2023. Now, we do have Uranus and the true node kind of, I'm going to say, working together to help us rise above our past, rise above our earthly attachments, have an awakening, an awareness, a perspective of where it is that we do need to move on, where it is that we do need to change. Of course, Uranus has been retrograde in Taurus energy for a couple of months now, and the whole purpose of this is the internalized journey of recognizing where it is that we're overly attached to this physical realm, to the people in it, to the titles, to the possessions, to, materialistic matters. And of course, we're being really encouraged to push the boundaries of our comfort zone, to leave those attachments behind in a certain sense so that we can move on and align with our higher self, our truest path. That true node is trying to get us on the right path for our soul's evolvement. So we definitely have a lot going on there. You'll notice when we move through the moon guide and you examine the elemental energy chapter that this particular moon event, although it is ruled over by Mercury and this is a Gemini energy, which is an air energy, that this particular event is actually earth dominated, which means that we are essentially wrapping up the loose ends of our physical realities as we know it, as we prepare for a deep emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical change as we move into 2023. Earth energy rules over the present moment, our physical realities, the comings and the goings, the relationship, the money matters, the possessions, everything in this physical experience. And it's being backed by air, which means that there's a lot of new information coming in, changing the course of how it is that we are going to create a new reality. There's a lot of conversations that will be had, confrontations, if you will, that will change our plans on who it is that we are taking with us as we move into the future. Many people have written in very powerful storylines for the people in their lives that they currently are close with and have relationships with. And this full moon in Gemini is going to be very eye-opening, very revealing on where people stand and how it is that they actually feel about you. And this is actually going to put us all in a situation to see the people in our lives from a different set of eyes, good, bad, or otherwise. And typically speaking, we are all going to be making certain edits and revisions to who is going to be playing what role in our lives as we move forward, especially in creating new foundations and structures for ourselves in 2023. So we got a lot going on, to say the least. And, as I mentioned in December's energy forecast, this is very pivotal to wrap up what has taken place in 2022, take stock of it, really kind of open our minds to it, see it from a different perspective as we prepare to launch ourselves into a brand new year, a brand new energy, a brand new set of soul contracts. And this particular full moon is also activating another level of this accelerated window of opportunity that we're currently in, because from here until the 21st, things are going to go very, very super quick. You're going to see a lot of shifts, a lot of changes in events, in relationship dynamics, in your thoughts, in the direction that we're taking. Then we jump into the solstice. That's Capricorn energy. Then we have the new moon in Capricorn. Then we have Chiron going direct. Then we have, this whole holiday kerfuffle, and then Mercury goes retrograde. And then we jump into a brand new year. So if you haven't taken the time to listen to December's energy forecast, I'm going to recommend you do that. If you haven't downloaded your zodiac forecast for your rising sign, for your sun sign, you should probably do that. We have an opportunity right now to close out 2022 on the best foot possible in order to close the door on some of the karmic chapters that we're leaving behind here in 2022 and preparing ourselves, cleansing ourselves for the new chapters that we're about to walk into in 2023. So with all that being said, I hope that you manage this energy with as much grace, as much ease as possible. It is going to be a very spicy time for many of us. We got a lot of energy coming at us here this week. I really encourage you to listen to all of the energy forecasts that I put out, stay ahead of the game, and do the work. Download your moon guide. Let that guide assist you in diving into the shadow realm of your ideas, of your emotions, of your experiences, and get it all out. Clean the slate, lighten the load as we prepare to move into a brand new year.